Hello there, my name is Edward Richmond. I'm a computer science graduate, member of the BCS, the Chartered Institute for IT, IT mentor, software developer, and pretty much everything in between over the last 16 years, which is how long I've been in the tech industry. These videos are introductory or even knowledge reinforcement videos into topics that I've been mentoring my students over during private sessions. So don't worry too much if you just happen to be browsing YouTube and come across them, or you get sent the link and wonder what is going on, because I've covered these topics or discussed them with students, and we're obviously recovering them in videos to follow up. So today's topic is graphical user interfaces, mainly focusing on the Windows graphical user interface, but the premise is the same throughout all user interfaces. So let's start with a little bit of history. I'll just grab a little bit of water. You wouldn't believe the amount of takes these videos actually take in order to get it right. This little black box in the corner, there we go. This thing over here is a terminal. We used to interact with computers just by typing to them and telling them what we wanted. So in this particular instance, we can see I'm in the C drive in the users folder, and in particular I'm in the EC557 folder because that's my user. But there might be a variety of users if multiple people are using that particular computer, and when they log in they will have their own folder with their own files and their own programs, etc. But it's only me that uses this computer, so there's only EC557. So if we were back in, say, 1960 or 70 or 80, I would have an interface like this. There were graphical user interfaces like the one on the right, and that's a very early version of the Macintosh, more commonly known as Mac OS now. It's a very early version of that. Probably looking about the 80s, 90s for that. Probably 80s actually, because there doesn't seem to be any colour on that. Main point being, anything that I can do on the Macintosh or Windows, I can do in Terminal. It's just a little bit harder. So if I want to see what's in the directory in the folder, I have to type ls and list everything, and as you can see, that's a little bit more confusing because I now have this list and mode. Well, not everybody knows what that is. Last write time. Okay. Not very useful information. And then we've got the name right on the end. I guess I could customize that, but that's going to take forever. Just to find, say, this folder here, Zotero. And if I want to change the directory, I have to go CD, change directory. Zotero, and then I can list what's in there, and we're sort of 4 commands in already, 3-4 commands in, and then I can go, well, okay, I want to see what's in logs, and you can see there already we are having to repeat ourselves a lot, and it's a lot of key presses, in order to get to one particular file. Not very handy for people that maybe don't have a lot of technical skill. Not very handy if you're in a rush. Not very visual either. If you're not very tech savvy, staring at a interface like that is going to be a drain. You're going to get lost. You're not going to want to interact with the computer, and you're going to have lots and lots and lots and lots of commands to remember, because we can do a lot of interesting stuff. So I've just moved back a couple of directories because what I want to do is demonstrate with this other command here, wget, we can actually go out and we can request websites. So this is my website, and there we go. I went out and I requested my website, and somewhere in here, hopefully, there will be a HTML file. Maybe not. Okay, well, it looks like it's got the HTML here anyway. So HTML is the structure of a web page. Maybe I needed to add something to this command for it to save it. But it's got it. It's got it. So the status code is 200. That means that it connected okay, and we can get the file okay. So this is the content, and we can see it's a HTML document there. And we got the title, Edward Charles, Programming, Parenting, Politics and Tutorials. So we got HTTP/1.1 200 OK. So that's the raw content, and we can sort of see all this other stuff. There's the images, any links, lots of links. And then that's the length. But again, that's not very useful. So, if you want to browse the internet, that's not going to be very useful for the average user, is it? So, progressing on from the terminal, we got stuff like this Mac OS. A very early version of Mac OS, where you had common elements as we do today. So, Mac OS has the bitten apple, or the Apple logo in the top left, just as Windows has the start menu, and you can click it and it has the power settings and a way to get to the control panel, etc. And they have file, edit, view, special, and all sorts of other settings for each application. But then they also have this file system. So just as we were browsing using the terminal here, we can also do that with the File Explorer. Now what you'll notice is the File Explorer has a very well thought out icon. It looks like a file or a binder, in a traditional office setting. So, if you've ever worked in an office that still uses paper binders, that's how it looks. So here it's basically the designer saying, here are all your files. Here are everything that you would want to access. Click here, because this is basically your huge filing cabinet of things, and the computer has nicely organized it into this area, and you can go away there and reorganize your filing cabinet. So we were in C uses EC557, and when we browse these files and folders here, we were basically in there, and here's all these folders with a dot in front here, and here's all the other folders, and then if we go down a bit further, we can see these 2 video files here, which is great. And that was a lot easier, wasn't it? Going in, clicking a couple of times, and then I can just click there and click into logs, and that was 2 clicks. It wasn't typing lots of words and executing them to get to a folder. It was literally 2 or 3 clicks to get into a folder, and then we can see this text document there. Now I'm not going to open it, but obviously if you are in a folder on your own computer, you can open the file, but that's the simplicity now of finding files on a user interface, and just a little bit of history with how we used to interact with computers to how we do it today. Everything is very visual, as opposed to being made so that you have to think about where the files and folders and what commands you're executing. Now arguably that has been good and bad. It's good because a lot more people have access to computers, but it's bad because you're not really thinking about what you're doing. You're just sort of clicking, and I would argue that's part of what you need to do. You need to think about what you're telling the computer, because the computer will only do what you want it to do and what you tell it to do. So you have to be very specific in what you tell the computer. So if we just bring this over here, we can see the comparisons between this very early Mac OS and Windows today. Nothing really much has changed. The style might be a bit better, but the fundamentals are the same, and that's because computers, as I say, only really do what they're told, and we can only really do a few things. So we can list items. So this is these are the sort of hard drives that I've got on this computer. We can view items in a specific folder. So in this case, I'm looking on the desktop, and we can move things around. Okay, so if I go to downloads, you can see I've got a few things in there. A long time ago, it says last year. You can see we maybe want to move that to the business drive, and it's as simple. There it is. You see, it's as simple as drag and drop. So that was in downloads, and it's still there. You see. So I just copied it. So it's drag, drop. But if I want to move it completely, and now, why it's been awkward. There we go. It's gone, and it's in there. So it's in the business drive. So the whole premise is when you're thinking about how to instruct the computer, you have to think about, I want that file or that folder or that you know, application to do something for me, and you know, maybe you want another window of File Explorer, and you're trying to move some documents. Now, obviously, I just dragged and dropped it into the business drive, but maybe we want to move it back. And instead of just dragging and dropping it, I could cut it and right click and paste it back, and you know, it's back there. So now you know, we get the idea that we're giving the computer a specific instruction. You know, move Slack setup from the business drive and put it in downloads. That's where I want that file, so it needs to go in there. So let's now explore. We've got buttons, common interface components, and you'll see this across a lot of the applications. We can create a folder just by clicking the button, create a new item in the current location. Okay, so again, we have to think, what is it that I really want the computer to do? Do I want a folder in downloads? And if the answer is yes, I will click folder, and it will create a new folder in downloads. And that folder I can do anything with. So now, obviously, we have in downloads a new folder, and we can see that commonality there between the terminal. If I just drag that down a little bit, we can see the commonality here. So we still have this structure, the slash user slash EC557. Well, it's now downloads slash new folder. So if you translate that into everything that you want to do, you know, in the case of moving the Slack file, the Slack setup file, I was moving it from C semicolon slash downloads to B semicolon slash, because that is where the business drive is. It's just on B. Okay, we can see that there. You know, this whole drive is just business. So this at one point, as you saw, resided on business. But the main point, of course, is when you are creating anything or moving anything, you need to think about where you are putting it and what you're trying to instruct the computer to do. Around the graphical user interface, you will find common elements. So you can just, from new, you can create anything. You've got Google Docs here, Microsoft Access databases, PowerPoint presentations, Publisher documents, Excel worksheets, Word documents, shortcuts, text documents. You know, you can create those all from one button. And then you've got actions. So cut, you know, with the scissor icon. Again, the designers have made this feel like it's you know, or you're trying to jog your memory, basically, because in some ways it's a little bit simplistic. They're treating you a little bit like a child. You know, the cut action is associated with scissors. You know, what do scissors do? Well, they cut. You know, it's the same with the File Explorer icon. You know, they're literally using imagery to associate the icon with the action. So the cut icon will literally if we go back to the Slack setup file, if I click cut, you'll see it grays it out. And what we've done now is we've said, I do not want to copy this. I don't want to copy this. I want to take that exact version and I want to move it somewhere else. Take the original and we can move it somewhere else now. Because the other option is to copy it. So we take a copy of the setup file and we can paste it somewhere else. You know, we can give a copy, and we can make unlimited copies, or in the case of moving it to business, you know, I can just paste it. So now if we go back there, you see it's not there anymore, and that's because we cut it. We literally cut it out of that folder and pasted it into business. But if I was to copy something, say this Dropbox installer, if I was to take a copy of that and paste that into business, the Dropbox installer is still there because we've literally just created another copy out of nothing. You know, we had a Dropbox installer, and we said to the computer, I want another copy of that, make another copy. So it did it. It gave me another copy of it and put it on the business drive. We can then paste, of course, the next action along, which is what we did. We put that copy on the business drive. Rename, so I might not want that to be called Dropbox installer. I might want that to be called not the Dropbox installer. And of course it still is the Dropbox installer, but on my system it's called not the Dropbox installer. We can share it, and we can also delete it, which I'm going to do because I don't need that on my system. We can sort by name, we can sort by date modified, sort by type. So now we've got file folder, lots of PNGs here, 2 applications, and 2 applications here because it's also sorted them by when they were put on the system. So we can also change the view, and there's lots of different options there. I'll leave you to explore the view on your own. Try and find the one that I had. I think it was a list. There we go, details. That's the one I prefer. And then we can undo as well. So I can undo delete of not the Dropbox installer.exe. I don't want to do that. We can pin this to quick access, which is already pinned, and then select all, select none, invert selection, and change all the options. So you will find common elements like that around every application, and you know, my advice is to go in and just experiment, because the worst you can do is delete something, you know, or change a view, or select a box somewhere that alters, you know, a very random, but not fatal, you know, option on the system. You know, when you're playing with the File Explorer, unless you actually delete a Windows system file, which I would argue you would know if you were in those files, you know, you are not going to break anything. You know, primarily you want to be sticking to your own folders and files, you know, which are going to be things like desktop downloads, documents, music, pictures, videos, and anything that's in those, you know. So my advice on that front is go away and experiment, and break things. Really do try, you know, instruct the computer on what you want it to do, and try and think through what it is that you want it to do, because you will encounter these common types of interfaces, whether it's Windows, whether it's Mac, or whether it's Chrome OS, or you get really advanced and you go for something like Linux. They will all have the same types of interface. The same can be said for mobile phones now, smartphones. The other thing I should point out is on Windows you have the taskbar at the bottom. A little bit more water, I think. You have the taskbar at the bottom, and the taskbar is where all your programs live. So on my computer, I've got lots of programs at the bottom. Some are for communication, some are for documentation, security, coding, web browsing, content creation, process, documentation. On your computer, it's likely to be very different, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, your system is going to be completely different to mine, and that's fine. You're not missing out on anything. How I customize mine and put my documents here, my applications here, I simply looked for the application, so click start. This is the start button, and this on Windows 11. You might not have Windows 11, so don't be concerned. This is the start menu on Windows 11. Find your applications. There's lots of applications on mine. Find something that you want to be able to easily access. This is the point of the taskbar. It makes your applications easy to launch, easy to manage. So find something that you want to pin. Let's say I want to pin Microsoft Edge. Right click and go to more, and you'll see pin to taskbar. Now that process might not be exact for your version of Windows, because you might have Windows 10. If you're very unfortunate, you might be still running on Windows XP, in which case I advise you upgrade, unless it's isolated from a network or something. But generally that is the process. You pin it to the taskbar, or you could even drag and drop. So if we go back, you can just sort of pick that up and link it. Oh, and there it is. You see, it pops up, and so does the other window there. So you can just sort of drag and drop it, which is, again, you are instructing the computer on what you want it to do, and there are multiple ways to do that. It's called a graphical interface because you should be able to interact with it, and the computer understands what it is that you want to do. Just next to it, just next to these applications, let me just get rid of that. Just next to this row of applications, we've got another row here. This is the system tray. A little bit more water, I think. This is the system tray, and what this is it tells you what is happening with your computer. You can see there's quite a lot going on with mine at the moment. In the background there, I've got Outlook running, I've got OneDrive running, I've got a VPN running, OBS Studio, which is how I'm making these videos, that's running, Discord is running, there's a password management system running, Bluetooth and the microphone and the network, and on and on and on. These icons can be very helpful in gauging what is happening with your system. It would be useful if you're not sure, for example, what an icon is, just hover over it. So, this little orange cloud thing here is Cloudflare Warp. So just hover over it, and if needs be, click it. So at the moment I'm connected, and and I can exit that. It can be a very quick way to manage your system, but also just to find out if there's something that might be interfering or doing something malicious. A lot of people, certainly a lot of clients that I've seen over the years, had something malicious that created a little icon there, and they weren't really sure what it was. They left it alone because they were scared. Don't be afraid of doing that. Don't be afraid of interacting and really getting to grips with what is on your system. After all, it's your system. You should know what is running on the system, and whether or not it's malicious or not. Of course, further to the right, we have the time and date, and if we click that, we see a nice photo of me from a year or so ago. Nice. And Outlook as well. So notifications, as you saw, will come up there. I do have Do Not Disturb on, so that's nice of OneDrive to ignore that. But you got to see an interesting photo of me. I'm not sure why I was taking that photo, to be honest. It looked very bizarre. I didn't look happy. But it is what it is. So notifications will pop up there, and that could be email, it could be OneDrive, it could be if you've connected your phone to your computer, it could be text messages, or what a whole array of things really. And of course then you've also got your calendar there. So look, those are just the basics of a graphical user interface. And as I explained, we have these common elements. Okay, every system will have a button, whether it's a start button, a Apple logo, that is basically the main button that you click to access control or your applications or settings, and they also have a main sort of menu. So if we look on Firefox, this is a web browser, there are 3 lines here. This is called a hamburger menu, and we click that, and lo and behold, we've got access to settings, we've got access to history and downloads and passwords and bookmarks, and it's telling me there's an update available and that my account is disconnected, which is neither here nor there really, but that is the key button. This is the button for getting to settings. It's the button for accessing my account and getting information about what's happening. And then we have key elements here. So this is the file and the view and the edit and the special. We can refresh the page, I can go home, I can save it to Pocket, I can view my downloads, edit my account there, see what's going on, and then these are all extensions. So think back to your little system tray here. Well, that is exactly the same as what's going here, what's happening here. All that's happening is the application is telling us you have installed these extensions to modify the software to work in a certain way, and we can see what those are. So it's allowing us to see effectively an icon, so that if I ever want to interact with that extension, I can just click, and that is effectively what's happening down here. So let's say, for the sake of argument, we come back to the little orange cloud there, and I want to interact with it, because that is another separate application that's running on my system. If I want to interact with it and I say, look, I don't want you to run anymore, I've had it with you. You've caused a lot of trouble. I could just disconnect, click, and it'll disconnect. At the moment, I don't want to do that, but for sake of argument, I can do that, and I can also do that in the web browser. So, HTTPS everywhere. This means every website I browse to, force it to encrypt the traffic between my computer and that website servers. Now, it's incredibly laborious to sit there and type HTTPS, semicolon / and then the website you want to go to. So all this does is I just type the website, and that adds HTTPS for me. Now, I might not need that for every single site. There might be some sites that are incredibly insecure, and yet I trust the person that's running it because he lives down the road, and he's not doing anything malicious. He just doesn't really understand technology, so I can disable it. Or it might be that I'm running a test site, and that's where that comes in. You need to click and adjust the settings. And it comes back to when we were talking about the File Explorer. Don't be afraid to jump in and experiment. Practice. So at the moment we can get rid of that now. We now are looking at the desktop. The desktop obviously has nothing on it because we go back to File Explorer. As I was just saying, practice, customization, and digging around to customize your system. I do have things on my desktop. All of this stuff here, all these 53 items, are on my desktop. This where the image of the mountain range is, that is my desktop. But I've hidden all that stuff because I want it to look nice and clean. I don't want lots of images everywhere. And lots of icons because I think it looks cluttered. So I want a nice clean desktop. So I've hidden all that, and that is perfectly possible. And I think with a little bit of experimentation, you could do that as well. Let's go to the Start button. Let's click the Start button. As I mentioned before, this is the Start menu. You can access your account here. So if I click that, it will take me to the settings and my account area. You can also go directly to downloads, see network information, your personal folder, open the File Explorer, which again we can see there. We can see the commonalities. Okay, so the designers again really go into town on saying, look, this is a folder. You can access your files and information, and you can see that again there because it's a folder and it's got a person in front of it. So they're basically saying, look, this is your personal folder. And the cog there for settings. So what would you associate a cog with? I would associate it with industry and machines, and adjusting lots of fine tuning on machines. Bit of water. What's the saying? It's a small cog in a big machine. Think something like that. So you are effectively going in and fine-tuning the machine to your tastes. So the final one there is power, and if we click on that, we can choose whether we want to put the machine on standby, on hibernate, turn it off, or set it to restart. And sometimes you'll even get the option whether we want to update and restart or update and shut down. If it's a Windows machine. Personally, I always opt to keep my machine on and just update and restart and keep the machine going. But let's take a look at the settings menu, and we can see there again we've got common elements. We always have the minimize, maximize and close button, and we always have a button over here for going back, and it always tells us what it is, and very subtle, but you'll notice on the left, just like we had in File Explorer. In fact, if I bring that back up, we can sort of see the similarities. So you can see we've got options on the left here for browsing folders and drives, and we've got options here for choosing which part of the system we want to update. So whether it's a system and then we want to, use this, if we were using the File Explorer and we wanted desktop, we could then choose a file. Well, the same principle applies. We've got system checked, and then we choose, well, maybe we want to adjust the display, the monitors, or a sound setting, the power setting. Maybe we want to adjust storage or multitasking. Maybe we want to allow someone to connect in, or we want to see what's going on with the desktop. And we can carry that on. We can go to Bluetooth, phone link, and adjust the settings there. Networks and internet. So obviously I'm connected to Wi-Fi at the moment. It says I'm not getting internet because I'm connected to Cloudflare, but obviously I am getting internet. So obviously then you can set up a mobile hotspot as well. These are all options, but the as is personalization, you can go in and adjust your background, the colors, the theme, etc. I would highly encourage you to go away and explore all these. The main principle is on the left are your options, and in the File Explorer, and in settings on your left are your options. The place where not the place, even the options for your system. These are the things you can configure on your system, and on the right are the sub options. So again, there's a comparison to be had once you've learned where or how the graphical interfaces work together. There are commonalities between each window, and just as there will be in every application that you use. So if we fire up Word, 1 second, if I can type, there we go. So if I create a blank document, we can see again we've got File, Home, Insert. In the same way we had that image with the Mac interface, the options are along the top, and then we have sub options. So the interface really tries to help you out by giving you access to the main option and then the sub options. And if you click File, the options are still on your left, and then the sub options are on your right. So in actual fact, all of the principles translate through not just Windows applications such as the File Explorer and the settings, but also into applications that they've built for word processing. And as we saw as well, the Firefox application, which is a third-party application, for web browsing, it translates into that as well. So look, I think I'm going to leave it there because we've covered quite a lot of content, and I think there are going to be a lot of questions. At least I hope they are. So look, let's before we end, let's just do a little recap. Every way of browsing, files and folders now is graphical, but it used to be via a terminal, and the same principles apply. Just as we are on D drive at the moment, we have a semicolon and a slash, and we're in seshat files, OneDrive, desktop. Okay, so what that basically means is we are in a drive. Okay, so we are saving to a specific location, a specific hard drive, in a folder called seshat files, into OneDrive, and then desktop. And the reason that's important is because that principle has not changed since the dawn of computing. At least on a academic and business and then personal basis, the terminal came along, and this is how we were doing it. And it's still the way we do it because it makes sense. Okay, if you think about the common folder structure, people might have their own way of filing things, but the majority of the time, okay, someone comes along and they say, I've got a filing cabinet, and within that filing cabinet, I have X, Y, and Z folders, and I have put your files in Z folder. And then, within Z folder, there might be, however many subfolders or subfiles. That's all that's happening here. So, obviously, it's not very effective if we go through the terminal and do that all the time. It can be if you're a power user. Not everybody, uses the graphical interface. Believe it or not, you can get a lot done with the terminal. But for the majority of people, the people that are not very tech savvy, it's much easier just to do it like this. So that's why we moved to graphical interfaces. And they have commonalities. As we can see on the screen, the options are on the left-hand side. Okay. And the sub-options, what would you like me to do? Think about it like that. What do you want me to do? Think of the computer asking you that question. So you click on desktop, and the computer says, cool, you want me to do something with desktop? And it lists the items on the desktop, and it says, okay, now what? And you say, well, there's a image there, image _3680 _GitHub. I want to do something with that, so you click that, right? And then you can copy that, paste it, cut it, do whatever you want with it, send it to somebody. But it's actually getting to that file in the first place. And it's the same options and the same principle in settings. Okay, the computer says, cool, you've opened settings. Would you like to work with the system or Bluetooth and devices, all the way down to Windows Update? And so you say, system, cool. Now what? And you say, well, I want to adjust the sound levels. So you come in, and the computer says, cool, you're now in sound. What do you want to do? You've got to click on the option within sound that you want to change, you know, and give it that feedback. But, you know, again, the options are on the left for what you can interact with on your computer, what you can change. And then, you know, the sub options are in there. It's the same principle. So I'm going to leave it at that. Any questions? hello@freelanceguy.co.uk. Send me your questions. Obviously, cybersecurity awareness event next week. This had been published on the 25th of June. So the event is on the 30th. Wow, okay, 5 days away. So obviously, if you want tickets or anything else like that, come on down. Yeah, cool. I think that's it then. Thank you for watching, and if you got this far, I appreciate it. It's been quite a while now. Probably about an hour, wow. So if you got this far, thank you for watching, and any feedback, just let me know.